Good morning. This is Erica with Launching Legacies. Welcome to our daily devotional. We are continuing and actually ending the devotional on Jeremiah and what he has done in the book of Jeremiah. So here goes the thing. You would think, okay, Erica, we've come to the end. We've come to the third part of the book of Jeremiah. It surely is going to be positive and uplifting and wonderful. And I love to say that, but spoiler alert, it doesn't. It doesn't become really uplifting and wonderful for Jeremiah and his work, at least from our perspective. So let's just dig right in and figure out what happens with Jeremiah at the end of the book of Jeremiah. So the last section starts with Jeremiah, picks up where Jeremiah is still prophesying. This time he's prophesying events after the captivity of Babylon. Remember, it was going to be 70 years and that's it. Like there was going to be a definite end to it. And so he's prophesying about what's going to happen to Judah when they're done with the captivity in Babylon. So that's okay. That's not a very negative thing. However, it doesn't really have like an uplifting, really dynamic thought to it. Other than what Jeremiah is always saying to the people. He's always telling them, listen, if you follow God, if you do what he's telling you to do, he's going to bring you back. You're going to be his own. He's going to protect you. He's going to take care of you. This is the theme throughout. He's like, look, this is what you're doing. This is what he doesn't want you to do. But if you do what he wants you to do, if you show love toward him, he'll receive you back. He'll protect you. He'll take care of you, and so on and so forth. Well, they're not able to receive that. They hadn't been able to receive it the whole book of Jeremiah, and it doesn't change now. Even if after they've been 70 years of captivity, Judah is going to still behave like Judah. And so they come out of captivity. There's prophecies about what's going to happen next. And then the next section, so we kind of, gloss over that because it's the same type of prophecies of the bad things that are going to happen. It's going to be terrible until God recognizes that you really love him and bring him back. Then the next place is that Jeremiah has to leave to Egypt. Now, this is an interesting portion of the scriptures because what happens is Jeremiah goes to the people. Okay, so everybody's kind of free. They're having this impulse of freedom, right? And so they're thinking about what should we do next? So they come to Jeremiah, and that's in the 42nd chapter. And they're like, Jeremiah, please pray, and find out what God tells us to do. And whatever he tells us to do, we're going to do it, Jeremiah. And so Jeremiah's like, oh, okay, great. I've done this before, but you guys didn't listen, but I'll do it again. And so he goes and he prays. And the thing that God tells him in the 42nd chapter of Jeremiah is, he tells him, you were left alive, and the Lord has told you, do not go back to Egypt. Be sure to understand this. I warn you today that you are making a mistake that will cause your deaths. You sent me to the Lord to ask God, saying, pray to the Lord and tell us what God is saying. Everything the Lord tells us, we will do. We will obey. So today I have told you, but you have not obeyed the Lord your God and all of that he has sent me to tell you. So what happens? They say they're going to listen. Jeremiah tells them, listen, God is like, look, I'm going to bless you, but stay here in Jerusalem. Do not go back. I'll help you rebuild the city. Just don't go to Egypt. And of course, they don't listen. They say, no, whatever you're talking about, I'm not hearing that. So here we go. In Jeremiah 43, this is their response. So Jeremiah finished telling the people the message from the Lord their God. He told them everything the Lord their God has sent them to tell them, right? Look, basically, don't go back to Egypt. Stay in Jerusalem. God is going to rebuild the city. Don't go back to Egypt. It's very clear. However, Azariah and Josiah and Johanan, sons of Kareah, and some of the other men were too proud, okay? So these are the people who are now leading this elite group that's left over. They were too proud, and they said to Jeremiah, you are lying. The Lord our God did not tell you that we cannot go back to Egypt and live there. And so because of that, they chased Jeremiah out of the city, and he has to flee to Egypt. It just doesn't end well. At the end of the day, what's happening here is Jeremiah, in all of this whole book of Jeremiah, he's been trying to get the children of Israel, Judah, to kind of listen to God, come back to God, follow God. And he tells them all these things are going to happen. Everything he says is going to happen, but they get angry with him over and over again. They have him captive at some point. He's in a cistern or something. He's just having hard times. And now everybody's kind of free for a moment. It's a little brief pause. They have this little pseudo structure of these people who have taken over in Judah, and they come to him asking him like they're really going to listen. Tell me whatever God says. I'll do whatever God says. And they don't, right? The only thing God said was stay where you are. Don't go to Egypt. And they're like, oh no, absolutely not. You're lying. And we're not going to listen to that. And so they chase Jeremiah out. And so Jeremiah has to escape. He ends up fleeing for his life. Because they want to kill him, because of this issue. And so that's the second. The second to the last portion of the chapter, of the book. And then Jeremiah starts to prophesy about Babylonian captivity. And he says this, look at the Babylon is going to fall. He says it's not going to stay. It's not going to stay a power. The walls will crumble. We get this in chapter 51. And into 52, he says that Babylon's great walls are going to fall. They're not going to stay. And he says all of this is Jeremiah 51 verse 58. And it says, this is what the Lord all-powerful says. He says, Babylon's thick walls will be completely pulled down and her high gates burned. And the people will work hard, but it won't help. Their work will become fuel for the flames. And what is he saying? God is saying, I told Babylon in the beginning that if you capture my people, that I would use you to do it. But at the end of it, I would destroy you. And so at the end, God's saying, I'm destroying Babylon. And Babylon does fall. And it is burned to the ground. And it is demolished. And that's kind of how Jeremiah ends. And at the 52nd chapter, he says, listen, take everything I've written, right? Because it's the whole book of Jeremiah. He says, after you receive this in Babylon, take everything I've written, tie it to a stone and throw it into the Euphrates. Yeah, that's how he ends it. That's his last statement. Yeah, throw it into the Euphrates and let it sink just as this nation has sunk. And that's his bow out gracefully. Jeremiah says, I'm done. And he drops the mic. or the scroll into the Euphrates River as it's tied to a rock. That's all that Jeremiah has at the end. So here, what's the point, right? What's the significance of the book of Jeremiah for us if we're modern people? Clearly, we're not writing on scrolls. Babylon, we're not talking about the fall of Babylon. What are we talking about here? Here goes the thing. Jeremiah represents people who are called to do difficult works. That's point blank and period. And it's like it was for Jeremiah, it'll be difficult for some of us too. And sometimes when we're called to do something difficult or say a truth that's hard for people to receive or give a warning that maybe you're not doing the right thing, maybe you're not going in the right direction, maybe you should turn around. People won't always receive you. They didn't receive Jeremiah, and they probably won't always receive you. But be of good courage to understand this. Wherever Jeremiah went, even when he suffered, God was with him there, and he was encouraging him to continue on to tell the truth. And he did that. And it doesn't always, and it didn't even for Jeremiah end up with roses and all beautiful and elegant and wonderful, but it was truth. And at the end of the day, truth in and of itself stands. It doesn't need to be defended. It doesn't need to have you stand up for it in some special way. When it's the truth, you can speak it. We want to say the truth in love, but after we've said it in love, let it be. Be like Jeremiah. Say, look I've done all I can. I've said all I can. And now I'm going to drop the scroll or drop the mic. I'm done. I'm going to let this go, and I'm going to let you meditate on the things that I've already said were happening or what were about to happen, because this is what God has said about you or to his people, and you either receive it or you don't. But it's not become my burden anymore, right? Jeremiah at the end is no longer weeping. Okay, he's no longer carrying the burden of the people and their distress or their disdain towards God. He just says, listen, this is what it is. I gave it to you. I hope you can receive it. Clearly, at the end, we find they're still not receiving it. Okay, still not receiving it. And he's like, that's okay. This is what it is. And, God bless you. And he leaves. And so we have to be that way too. The Bible in the New Testament, God told the disciples, if you go into a city and they receive you, not shake the dust off your feet and keep it pushing. Leave that place. place. And we have to be the same way too. Not being offended. You've heard my devotionals on not being offended. Not being all worked up because, we feel a certain way about them not listening to us, or we can say we feel a certain way about them not listening to God. None of those places are even necessary. We just say, look, I delivered this word. You didn't like this word. It's all good. I'm going to move forward. I'm going to shake the dust off my feet, and I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be like Jeremiah and say, drop the scroll in the Euphrates. When it's done, it'll sink just like the nations have sinked. God is going to do what he said he's going to do, even if you don't receive it. And it's okay. We have to be that way. We have to be that resolute to do what we're told to do in love, deliver the message like we're supposed to deliver the message, and then say, well, when it's done, it's done. I can't do anything else about it. I hope you receive it, and I'm moving on. And I hope you can do the same. So be encouraged by this book of Jeremiah, that when we have difficult things to say and do, we, at this point, according to Jeremiah, have to kind of get it together, do it in love, and move on when it's done. So we're going to move on. This is the end of our devotional on Jeremiah. We hope you've enjoyed it. And we'll be back tomorrow with a whole nother devotional to end the week. We'll have one of its own, a unique little devotional for the end of the week. But please be mindful. I'm praying for you. And I hope that you are praying for us. We definitely need your prayers. And we're encouraged by that. And until tomorrow, be blessed.